Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have you here today. We're about to dive into the world of Microsoft 365 Telemetry. The title of our presentation is Mastering Microsoft 365 Telemetry, From Data Overload to Strategic Insights. We'll explore how to transform scattered logs into meaningful intelligence that enhances security, compliance, and cost management. Over the next few slides, I'll guide you through practical strategies and best practices to turn data into action. So, let's get started. Understanding how to interpret and connect these telemetry points is key to transforming noise into actionable intelligence. While this data promises valuable insights into user activity, security, and license utilization, many administrators face the challenge of managing overwhelming volumes of raw logs and disconnected reports. Microsoft 365 Telemetry generates vast amounts of data from various sources such as audit logs, usage reports, and security feeds. These data streams come from across different services like Teams, SharePoint, and Azure AD, providing a comprehensive view of what's happening in your environment. By mastering how to analyze and connect these data points, you can move from simply collecting data to gaining strategic insights that inform your decisions and improve your organization's productivity and security. Let's talk about the telemetry overload problem. When organizations collect so much data from Microsoft 365, it can quickly become overwhelming. The key issue here is that this overload often results in wasting time chasing after irrelevant data, while the truly critical signals get buried in the noise. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. These important signals are hidden, and if we're not careful, we might miss them altogether. This overload also leads to frustration because default dashboards tend to show isolated metrics without giving us the full context. Without that context, it becomes really difficult to identify what actually matters. We're left looking at numbers but not understanding their significance. And on top of that, administrators often feel buried under a flood of telemetry data, activity feeds, usage charts, audit logs, security reports, all competing for attention. It's a constant battle to sift through all this information and find the insights that truly drive strategic decisions. So the challenge is not just collecting data, but making sense of it in a way that empowers us rather than overwhelms us. That's what mastering Microsoft 365 Telemetry is all about. Now, let's take a closer look at some common admin use cases for Microsoft 365 Telemetry. First, it's important to recognize that current checks often focus on individual metrics rather than providing a comprehensive view. This approach can limit how effectively we identify and respond to issues. Admins heavily rely on telemetry to investigate security alerts and detect suspicious activities. Being able to quickly analyze these signals is crucial for maintaining a secure environment. Monitoring risky sign-ins and audit trails is also key to ensuring compliance within our organizations. It helps us identify potential vulnerabilities and enforce policies effectively. Finally, many admins use telemetry data to demonstrate the value of their Microsoft 365 licenses, especially the more expensive E5 plans, to leadership. Showing clear benefits helps justify investments and secures ongoing support for advanced features. Overall, mastering telemetry transforms raw data into strategic insights that support security, compliance, and business value. Let's talk about disconnected data silos. When telemetry data isn't integrated, it often just sits as isolated points rather than telling a complete story. Without that integration, it becomes difficult for us to see how activities in one service relate to others. This fragmentation can obscure important patterns, things that might indicate operational issues or potential security risks. For example, telemetry from Teams, SharePoint, and Azure AD often exist in separate dashboards and reports. Each one shows only a fragment of the overall picture, making it challenging to get a clear, comprehensive view of what's really happening across your environment. The key takeaway here is that without breaking down these silos, we limit our ability to gain strategic insights from the data we collect. Let's take a closer look at some of the challenges with separate dashboards. When metrics are kept in different tabs, it becomes easy to miss the bigger picture. This fragmentation can prevent us from recognizing potential security threats or operational issues before they escalate. Essentially, a siloed approach hides critical insights behind disconnected views, making it harder to respond quickly. For example, we might notice a surge in Azure AD sign-in failures at the same time we see unusual activity in SharePoint downloads. But if those metrics are on separate dashboards, connecting the dots becomes difficult. Similarly, a spike in Teams meetings following a company announcement might seem positive, but it could also signal something worth investigating further. The key takeaway here is that isolated data points limit our ability to see the full story. To truly master Microsoft 365 telemetry, we need integrated views that reveal these hidden signals, helping us turn data overload into strategic insights. Now, let's take a closer look at the impact of information overload. As Forrester reports, when admins are overwhelmed by the sheer volume of signals and data, they tend to become reactive rather than proactive. This means we're constantly playing catch-up, missing opportunities to address issues before they escalate, and responses become slower. It's a cycle that hampers efficiency. Gartner also points out that endless streams of data without proper context can actually erode confidence. When the data feels disconnected or confusing, making informed decisions becomes much harder, and trust in the insights diminishes. And then there's the cognitive fatigue that sets in when IT teams are faced with numerous dashboards that don't connect or tell a cohesive story. This overload can lead to decision paralysis, where teams feel stuck because they're overwhelmed by the amount of information and unsure of what to focus on next. All of these points highlight a crucial challenge in our digital landscape: how to turn this flood of data into strategic insights without getting drowned in it. That's the core theme we're exploring today, finding ways to master telemetry and make data work for us, not against us. Now, let's talk about the true value of telemetry. Mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry means moving beyond just collecting data. It's about turning that raw information into strategic insights. When we perform cross-service correlation, we transform basic logs into actionable signals. These signals can reveal risks, highlight inefficiencies, and even point out opportunities for improvement that might otherwise go unnoticed. Instead of looking at isolated metrics from individual services, I encourage you to observe patterns that span across Azure AD, Teams, SharePoint, and Exchange. Recognizing these patterns helps us see the bigger picture and understand how different services interact. This is where the real power of telemetry comes into play, connecting data points across multiple platforms. By doing so, we can uncover meaningful relationships that provide deeper insights and support smarter decision-making. Ultimately, it's about leveraging this interconnected data to proactively optimize our environment and better serve our users. Let's dive into this case study on license waste. Mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry really is about turning data overload into strategic insights. Here, we see how cross-referencing license assignments with actual usage data can reveal gaps, areas where organizations might be overspending or underutilizing resources. By doing this, you can identify cost savings and also target training where it's needed most. Now, a common trap is leadership looking at user sign-in counts and assuming everyone is fully on board. But the key point is, without digging into feature usage or site activity, you might miss underutilized licenses. Just because people sign in doesn't mean they're using all the features they should be. This leads us to the issue of misleading sign-in counts. Many organizations waste thousands on unused E5 licenses because they look at usage reports in isolation. If you don't connect the dots between sign-ins, feature adoption, and actual activity, those licenses are just sitting there unused and costing you money. So the main takeaway is that thorough telemetry analysis helps uncover these hidden gaps. It's about more than just counting logins. It's about understanding real engagement and optimizing your license spend accordingly. Let's take a closer look at telemetry triangulation and why it matters. When we see a single data point, like a spike in failed Azure AD sign-ins, it can be difficult to interpret on its own. It might be an isolated issue, or it could signal something more serious. That's where triangulation comes in. By combining multiple telemetry streams, such as sign-in failures, Teams activity, and SharePoint visits, we can gain a clearer picture of what's really happening. For example, if we notice a spike in failed sign-ins alongside zero activity in Teams and a drop in SharePoint usage for the same users, that could point to account lockouts or even potential misuse. It's about connecting the dots to understand the bigger story. Triangulation essentially means analyzing at least 3 different streams at once. This helps us detect meaningful patterns that wouldn't be obvious if we looked at each data point in isolation. It's a powerful way to identify issues early and prioritize investigation effectively. So, in summary, triangulation turns ambiguous data into strategic insights, making our troubleshooting smarter and more targeted. Detecting security issues with combined data is really about leveraging the full picture. Mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry means moving beyond just data overload to uncover strategic insights that help us stay ahead of threats. When we integrate these different data streams, it allows us to identify emerging issues more quickly and respond faster. For example, if we see multiple failed sign-ins at odd hours, combined with unusual downloads on SharePoint and inactivity on Teams, that could be a sign of a compromised account or even an insider threat. The key here is that these signals, when viewed together, provide a clearer picture of potential security risks. This overlapping telemetry is powerful because it can reveal risks that a single dashboard might miss. By connecting these different indicators, we can detect security issues more effectively and act swiftly to mitigate them. That's the strategic advantage of integrating these data streams to turn raw data into actionable security insights. In this slide, we're focusing on how we can gain valuable insights from user activity patterns to improve adoption and productivity. By mapping these patterns, teams can pinpoint which groups might need targeted training to make better use of Microsoft 365 tools. It's important to recognize that just because someone logs in daily doesn't mean they're using the full range of features available. For example, a user might be active in Teams, but not engaging with advanced features like breakout rooms or app integrations. This indicates potential areas where additional training could really boost collaboration. Tracking login frequency alone isn't enough. We need to go a step further and analyze actual feature usage within Teams. Understanding what features are being used or not used helps us identify specific training needs. This way, we can tailor our support efforts to encourage more effective tool adoption, ultimately driving better productivity across the organization. By connecting these insights to our broader strategy, we can turn data overload into strategic actions that empower users and optimize the value of Microsoft 365. Let's take a closer look at how we can identify communication bottlenecks within our organization. On this slide, we're focusing on mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry to move from simply managing data overload to gaining strategic insights that truly inform our communication strategies. These insights are invaluable because they guide us in making targeted improvements. For example, when we notice high activity in Teams but very little follow-up via email, that could indicate that important information is getting lost or deadlines are being missed. That's a red flag that our communication flow might need some adjustments. Similarly, heavy email threads with minimal activity in Teams often suggest that users are defaulting to email, which can lead to delays and even compliance risks. Recognizing these patterns allows us to address the root causes of these bottlenecks. And finally, by combining data from Exchange message traces with Teams activity, we can identify collaboration gaps, areas where our communication might be fragmented or inefficient. Overall, these insights enable us to refine our strategies, ensuring that communication is seamless, timely, and effective across all platforms. Now, let's talk about spotting license and site usage mismatches. This is a crucial part of mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry because it helps us turn data overload into strategic insights. Essentially, what this enables organizations to do is reassign or even reduce licenses where they're no longer needed. By doing so, we can optimize our spending and ensure that support resources are focused where they're most needed. A key concept here is optimizing license allocation. When we align license assignment logs with site access data, we can quickly identify resources that are underutilized. This helps us avoid wasting money on licenses that aren't being used effectively. Another important point is that after large rollouts, many SharePoint sites tend to remain unused, even though they've been assigned licenses. This inflates costs unnecessarily. So, by identifying unused SharePoint sites post-rollout, organizations can make smarter decisions about license management, reducing expenses and improving overall efficiency. In the end, it's all about using telemetry data to ensure our licenses are aligned with actual usage, maximizing value and minimizing waste. Now, this slide highlights how a narrative approach can transform raw data into meaningful business insights. Instead of just looking at numbers, we interpret what they actually mean for the organization. For example, when we see a slowdown in SharePoint access coinciding with new contractor hires and more external teams meeting invites, that can signal onboarding challenges or potential data exposure risks. It's about connecting the dots and understanding the story behind the data. By combining telemetry from multiple platforms, we can uncover these underlying stories that might not be obvious at first glance. It's like turning a collection of numbers into a coherent narrative that informs strategic decisions. Ultimately, this process helps us move from just seeing data to understanding it, mapping insights that guide our actions. It's a powerful way to leverage telemetry not just for monitoring, but for truly strategic insights. Now, let's talk about how this approach shifts our role from reactive firefighting to proactive management. Instead of waiting for issues to escalate, we can identify and address potential problems early on. This proactive management is made possible through analysis that looks across different streams of telemetry data. By connecting dots across various services, we can uncover root causes and spot emerging issues before they become critical. This is where the power of cross-stream analysis really comes in. When we analyze signals from different sources together, we gain a much clearer picture of what's really happening. On the other hand, looking at telemetry signals in isolation can be misleading. It might hide important issues or lead us down false paths, wasting time and effort. That's why overcoming the noise, by integrating and analyzing data across streams, is essential. It helps us focus on the true problems and make smarter, more strategic decisions for managing Microsoft 365 environments effectively. Building actionable dashboards is all about making sure the right information gets to the right people at the right time. When we master Microsoft 365 telemetry, we move from just collecting data to gaining strategic insights that can truly make a difference. On this slide, I want to focus on a few key points. First, highlighting what requires immediate attention is crucial. It helps administrators act swiftly on the most impactful insights, rather than getting lost in a sea of data. Next, the idea of prioritization of insights is important. Effective dashboards connect related metrics across different services, which helps establish correlations. Recognizing these links enables us to see the bigger picture and understand how different areas are impacting each other. Finally, situating anomalies within the context of business events really adds value. When an anomaly appears, understanding its place within a broader business scenario helps us interpret its significance and decide on the appropriate response. All of these elements combined help us create dashboards that are not just data displays, but powerful tools for strategic decision-making. Now, let's look at this practical dashboard example using Power BI. The key idea here is that by creating a consolidated view, we significantly reduce the need to flip through multiple reports. Instead, Everything is in one place, making it easier to spot important signals that need our attention. This approach enhances efficiency because it surfaces actionable insights quickly. For example, visual cues like red flags can indicate underused licenses, sudden spikes in failed sign-ins, or declining site activity. These indicators help us rapidly detect issues before they escalate. Imagine a Power BI dashboard that combines SharePoint usage logs, Teams activity statistics, and Azure AD sign-in patterns, all integrated into a single view. This unified perspective allows us to monitor multiple data sources seamlessly, providing a comprehensive picture of user activity and system health. Overall, this example underscores how strategic data consolidation and visual cues can empower us to manage Microsoft 365 more effectively, turning data overload into actionable insights. Now, let's look at how advanced alerting can really enhance our monitoring capabilities. When we use multi-stream rules, we can set up alerts that fire only under specific conditions, making them more meaningful and less noise-prone. For example, Power Automate failure warnings will trigger only when they're linked to actual workflow disruptions in Teams, helping us pinpoint issues more accurately. Another example is a failed login alert. Instead of just notifying us about every failed attempt, we make it activate only if there's also an increase in SharePoint downloads. This way, we focus on potential security incidents that matter, rather than false alarms. The key takeaway here is that alerts should only fire when multiple telemetry signals align. This approach helps us reduce false positives, ensuring that our team responds to genuine issues, not just noise. It's all about turning raw data into strategic insights, which ultimately helps us maintain a secure and efficient Microsoft 365 environment. Now, on this slide, we're focusing on how mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry can really shift our approach from simply collecting data to gaining strategic insights. When we take a proactive stance, telemetry becomes much more than just a reporting tool. It turns into a strategic asset that can guide our decisions and actions. Active monitoring is key here. By using integrated telemetry, we can catch slow-moving outages early, which helps us prevent bigger issues down the line. It also allows us to predict support needs before users even experience significant problems and identify gaps in adoption before they escalate into major obstacles. This is a big step up from passive dashboards, which mainly summarize past events. While those dashboards are useful for understanding what happened, they don't really help us prevent issues proactively. That's the limitation of passive dashboards, they're reactive, not preventive. So, shifting from passive reports to active monitoring means we're constantly watching and responding in real time. This proactive approach enables us to stay ahead of issues, improve user experience, and make smarter strategic decisions. It's about transforming telemetry into a strategic asset that adds real value to our IT management and user support. Now, let's talk about how automating workflows can really make a difference. By automating tasks like license reviews, targeted training, and security investigations, we can effectively close the gap between what our data tells us and the actual impact on our business. These automated processes not only boost efficiency, but also ensure that the insights we gain lead to real, tangible results. The key here is impact. By automating workflows, we drive results that align with our organizational goals. Whether it's reducing costs, improving productivity, or ensuring compliance, IT actions need to be purposeful and aligned with these objectives. One of the biggest challenges we face is turning telemetry insights into decisions that truly add value to the business. It's not enough to just surface problems. We need to make sure that the actions we take are aligned with our broader goals, like cost savings, productivity gains, or meeting compliance standards. In essence, bridging the gap between insights and business value is about translating data into strategic decisions that make a real difference. That's how we turn insights into impactful business outcomes. Now, let's talk about how we can operationalize telemetry with automation to make our security and user engagement more proactive and efficient. First, by analyzing telemetry data, we can initiate immediate security investigations. For example, if we notice spikes in failed Azure AD sign-ins that coincide with unusual SharePoint downloads, we can quickly respond to potential threats. Next, telemetry insights can help us identify areas where adoption is lagging. If we see low usage of features like Teams breakout rooms, we can flag those user groups for targeted training, encouraging broader engagement and better utilization. Another key point is automating license reviews. When usage drops below a certain threshold, the system can automatically trigger a review, saving us from manual audits and ensuring licenses are allocated effectively. Finally, by leveraging tools like Power Automate, IT teams can transform raw telemetry data into actionable workflows. This means automating routine responses and streamlining operations, turning data into strategic actions seamlessly. Overall, this approach helps us move from simply collecting data to actually using it to make smarter, faster decisions across our organization. Now, let's look at how we can align telemetry with our business objectives. First, it's crucial to correlate license assignments with actual usage. This helps us identify which subscriptions are underutilized, so we can reassign or even remove them, driving cost savings across the organization. Next, we need to monitor security alerts in the context of our business processes and user roles. By doing this, we ensure our security measures are aligned with our organizational compliance goals, keeping us protected and compliant. Lastly, linking feature adoption metrics with training completion rates allows us to identify teams that might need additional support. This helps us boost productivity by ensuring everyone is equipped and confident in using the tools effectively. All these strategies help us turn telemetry data into strategic insights that support and enhance our overall business goals. Let's talk about human oversight in automated processes. When managing Microsoft 365 telemetry, it's crucial to strike a balance between automation and manual validation. Incorporating manual checks for high-impact alerts helps us stay efficient while also accounting for context and nuance. This hybrid approach ensures that our decisions are well-informed and not purely relying on automated outputs. It also fosters collaboration between IT teams and business stakeholders, which is essential for making strategic, confident decisions. Now about this hybrid model. It's designed to help us make context-aware decisions. For example, automating license revocations or security escalations without review might seem efficient, but it can cause disruptions or erode trust if not carefully managed. Unreviewed automated actions carry risks, especially if they impact users or operations unexpectedly. Understanding legitimate business cycles is also important. Sometimes, dips in usage are actually normal, like when a project wraps up or a contractor leaves. Recognizing these patterns helps us avoid unnecessary alerts or interventions. While automation can speed up responses and reduce manual effort, it's important not to lose sight of human judgment. Human oversight helps us catch nuances that automation might miss and prevents potential pitfalls. So, maintaining that balance between automation and human insight is key to effective, strategic management of our telemetry data. In this success story, we're highlighting how license optimization through automation can make a real difference. We focused on mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry, taking it from being just a data overload to gaining strategic insights that matter. We managed to significantly reduce license waste without disrupting users' workflows, which is always a key concern. And importantly, the savings we achieved were reinvested into targeted training and support, ensuring users are empowered and efficient. This example clearly demonstrates how telemetry-driven automation can deliver measurable financial and operational benefits. For instance, we automatically identified users who had been inactive for 60 days, then routed these findings directly to managers so they could review and take action promptly. To achieve this, we integrated telemetry data from license assignments, usage logs, and user activity into a Power Automate workflow. This streamlined process helped us optimize licensing efficiently. The challenge came from a global manufacturer that faced recurring issues with unused Microsoft 365 licenses, inflating costs, even after monthly audits. By implementing this automation, we tackled that challenge head-on, turning data into actionable insights and cost savings. So, as we wrap up, I want to emphasize that telemetry isn't just about collecting data. It's about gaining a real competitive advantage. Mastering Microsoft 365 telemetry allows us to move from feeling overwhelmed by data to extracting strategic insights that truly make a difference. But of course, maintaining human oversight is critical. It ensures that we keep the right context and build trust in the decisions we make based on telemetry. Human judgment helps us interpret the data correctly and avoid jumping to conclusions. Aligning those insights with our business priorities is where the real value lies. When we focus on what matters most to our organization, we can drive meaningful change and boost overall performance. Automation plays a key role here too. It helps surface actionable signals, reducing the manual effort and making telemetry a strategic asset rather than a burden. Automation ensures we respond quickly to important insights. And finally, Microsoft 365 telemetry allows us to connect data points across different services. This interconnected view reveals hidden patterns and relationships that we might not see otherwise, giving us a much deeper understanding of our environment. Together, these elements, oversight, alignment, automation, and connection, transform telemetry into a true strategic advantage, helping us stay ahead in a competitive landscape.